So I'm Donna Lund, and I also use my maiden name sometimes, so Donna Bascom Lund. And I'm going to be doing a very basic beginner watercolor class for the mill this summer. We're going to cover paper, brushes, paints. We're going to cover what these different tools do and the different techniques that you can use them for. We're going to work on graded washes. We're going to work on wet techniques, wet on dry, and ways to make texture and interest in the painting. We will work on things that the students are interested in working on, but what I hope to do is get people who maybe have never done watercolor painting before started, and I hope to expand on things that people may have kind of learned but want to learn more about. We probably won't finish a painting in that time. We may if we have enough time, but what you'll have is the tools and the knowledge to go ahead on your own and practice and play with it, or take another beginner watercolor class, or maybe even a medium to intermediate class with the tools that you have. With watercolor, you can wet a section of paper, and you could wet at the beginning of your, say you wanted to make a line of trees, you can wet from that line where your trees start up the paper and get that damp. And then you can drop in color into that line and do very basic tree shapes. You can also take a little more color and add it to that line. That's called wet on wet. And some of those colors might push the other color up, and it will kind of flow nicely away from where you drop it, kind of reminiscent of tree shapes. And while that's drying, if you take the end of a brush or a point, you can run scratch lines up through the trees to replicate branches and trunks and things, and even bring the branches a little beyond the tops of the trees sometimes to depict those branches that kind of come out of the top that maybe have died a little bit. When that's dry, it's going to look like a line of trees in the background. Okay. So I did watercolor painting in elementary school and high school, but never really received instructions on the different techniques and the way to really paint. And through the years, I've gathered that information and knowledge through workshops and taking lessons with different teachers. And I feel like I finally have enough. I've gathered all the information that I can, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to teach the people who are participating all these different techniques so it doesn't take them 30 years to gather this, and they can get started and have fun with watercolor.